post. He's out. William on the drive. Pull up. Got it!
A grand slam for Masters. Witherspoon in the corner, on the way and good.
More big hit in him. A bomb.
Shapen, wide open, caught across the middle. Thompson, touchdown! Mississippi State, the national champions.
Wrap it in maroon and white.
Welcome back. It's the 4th episode of the Bulldog Breakdown presented by the Bulldog Student Sports Network. I can't believe, Ty, that it's already been 4 episodes. Now, we usually start with other sports, so we have a really big list of things to talk about on the docket today. But what do we have for other sports? I'm intrigued because I heard what you were writing down earlier.
Yes, so we just have 2 sports that I'm gonna mention here. First, I'll talk about cross country. Just recently got done with the SEC tournaments in Knoxville. That was their highest team finish in 8 years at the SEC tournament, and the first time since 2017 that state has earned a top 10 finish in the tournament. The Bulldogs earned 243 team points. That shaved off 30 points from last year's total. Now we'll move to baseball, which will be the final extra sport that I'll talk about. The baseball played Louisiana Tech, in a 16-inning exhibition last Saturday. It was split into a 9-inning game and a 7-inning game. Mississippi State walked off the first game, which was the 9-inning game, 6-5, and then lost the 7-inning game, 3-2. So overall, it was a pretty good showing for Mississippi State baseball. A lot of people are excited about that with new head coach Brian O'Connor, and great for cross country too. They did a really good job. Great team finish, and now we'll get into volleyball.
Yeah, but I'd like to mention we do have the Thunder and Lightning baseball game coming up this Friday, so a lot of people, there's tickets still available if you want to show up for that. But we go to volleyball, and at the time of recording, they have just played Oklahoma, so we'll see what that happens when we get to that. But volleyball has taken care of business. That was the motto for last episode, and it seems to be the motto for volleyball as well. They go ahead and beat LSU 3-1 in Baton Rouge this Friday, led by standout freshman Lindsey Mangelson. Now, we've talked a lot about Mangelson on the show for the past couple weeks. She won SEC Freshman Honors of the Week with 23 kills on 59 attempts, and then ended up with a 3.22 hitting percentage for this game. A good showing for her. But what did you see that game, Ty?
A good showing from the team in general. But we struggled in the first set. I'll mention that. State lost that first set to LSU. I believe the score was 25-20 in that set. Battled back to rattle off 3 straight set wins, winning set 2 by 7, set 3 by 9, and set 4 by 4. And it really played well in those final sets. You look at hit percentage, that's so important in volleyball. A 344 hit percentage in set 2, 353 in set 3, and 239 in set 4. So it tapered off a little bit, but I think LSU was a little worn out by then. State had done so much in set 2 and set 3, and they were so dominant. I think that just kind of tired them out. You mentioned Mangelson had a great one. 23 kills, SEC Player of the Week honors. Really well played match for her. Mele Corral-Blagovic had a really good one. She was good in that one as well. Over 300 hit percentage, and Ava Anderson also had a good one for Mississippi State as well. So a good win. You went and took care of business, like we said, was the MO, and did a really good job against a team that you probably should have beaten. Guess what? Mississippi State did just that.
I'm definitely impressed with the volleyball showing, but I'm more impressed with how you just pronounced that name earlier. Great job, Ty. I got to give it to you. But we look at it, and just like last week, volleyball is playing on Friday again, but this time they're in Fayetteville as they play the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, Arkansas is on a 10-game losing streak. They're 1-10 in the conference and 3-8 at home after a win away in Baton Rouge. How do you keep Arkansas's losing streak alive?
just play your game. You mentioned on a 10-game losing streak, they have a game at the time we're recording this. They have a game on Wednesday, so this episode will be out later than that. But probably, if I had to guess, maybe on an 11-game losing streak, it's just not a good. It's not a good team. It's just a down year for them. Just play your brand of volleyball. I think you're going to be okay. Either way, I think you're going to be okay. So should just take care of business again this week, and hopefully have a good week. Beat Oklahoma in the first game of the week, and then handle Arkansas on Friday.
So we switched sports, and we waited a little bit to record because it's big news for Mississippi State as we move to soccer. You just beat the number 1 ranked Arkansas team in the SEC tournament 2-1, and it's the first time since 2018 a number 8 seed has reached the semifinals in the SEC tournament. The last one was Florida, Ty. Now, the last time you played, you lost to Arkansas 4-2. What was different this go around? We watched the majority of the game. You watched just about all of it. What did you see different than you did in the regular season?
Now, I first want to mention the game that happened this weekend as well, the Sunday win to get you to this spot over Oklahoma. 1-0. Tatum Borman with a goal in the 89th minute to win that one, the 8th goal of this season that has been scored for Mississippi State in the 80-plus minute territory. State known for their late game magic. State was in the offensive end for a majority of it, had 22 shots to Oklahoma's 7. That was the most shots against any SEC team this season for State until the win over Arkansas. Jenny Harrison, a great game at goalie, a shutout and 5 saves. Oklahoma was very physical, but stayed composed and maintained their composure, able to win that one. Talk about the win over Arkansas, 2-1. It's a great win, really, really good win. Another ranked win for Nick Zimmerman. 3 top 10 wins now this season. 23 shots is now the most against any SEC opponent of the team opponent this year for Mississippi State. Multiple great saves from Jenny Harrison. Had one after a PK, which was outside the box. It looked like it was going to go in, and she jumped up and was able to save it. State scored their first goal after Arkansas scored their goal, not even a minute and a half after. State able to answer with a Rebecca Vega-Paleka goal in the 24th minute, and then Allie Perry with an absolute masterclass of a goal outside the box in the second half in the 58th minute. State just did a really good job applying the pressure and continued to fend off Arkansas pressure offensively, and I'm just proud of how they played.
Yeah, and it's always fun to see the underdog come on top. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go switch to another women's sport, and that's basketball. It was almost the case for the underdog to win in women's basketball as they beat Davidson at home this past Monday. It was a 66-57 win with Destiny McFall as the top scorer for the Bulldogs. She had 20 points on the night. Now, it was a one-man show for you up in the booth. So kind of talk to me about that game. What did you notice when you watched women's basketball this season?
Well, I'll first look at the players. You talked about Destiny McFall as a leading scorer. Definitely excited to see her come into her own role. She kind of played behind some last year. Didn't really get to shine as much. But you have a lot of newcomers on this team, and she's kind of stepped into that leadership role, and she took advantage of it last night with 20. I say last night, it would be Monday night is when we played. Favor Dozie had a double-double, a newcomer for Mississippi State. Going to have to be, big on the inside. Got to be the interior presence for Mississippi State. Madison Francis, the freshman, played really well, 8 points, and get this, State had 7 blocks in the game. 6 of them came from Madison Francis. She's going to be fun to watch, a highly touted freshman recruited by Sam Purcell. Another highly touted freshman was Jayla Lampley, who had 11 points in the game as well. So you saw some exciting things from some freshmen in that game. It was one of the second highest state recruiting class ever coming into this season. They showed why they were recruited so highly. I thought they played really well. Just talking about the team in general, I think State struggled with turnovers again. 18 turnovers in the game. It kind of looked a lot like last year, and they were really sloppy in the first half, for lack of a better term. It just looked really bad. Had scored 31 in the first half. The game was tied at 31. They ended up cleaning it up in the second half. I think, only had 7 turnovers, I believe, in the second half. Offense looked a bit smoother. And when State was shooting the ball, Connor, it was going in. I mean, State was a good shooting team last year, but the thing that haunted them was turnovers. And I talked about that on the broadcast. And, look, what do you know? That was the exact story of the night. And then also offensively, free throws, got to clean those up. Missed 10 last night. Had 31 free throws shot, 21 made. clean that up. That would give you a little bit extra room to breathe if you just make at least half of those. You win the game by double digits. And then also I'll look on defense. I thought they overall played well. It kind of shows with only allowing 57 points defensively. I just thought they forced a lot of tough shots for Davidson. And, Davidson capitalized on some of those. They sure as heck brought great fight. They played a really clean game, took State down to the wire. But, State was able to come back, and they forced some turnovers defensively in the second half more than Davidson turned the ball over in the first half. Thought they looked good overall. Defensively, I think that's going to be where State thrives here. And we'll see how the Bulldogs fare on offense, maybe clean up the turnovers.
Yeah, and our motto last year, what I said a lot, and we called a couple games together, several games together last year, and every dog eaten was something that I kind of made consistent throughout the season, both in women's and men's basketball, more so in men's. But if we look at men's, at the time of the recording, just like volleyball, they will play North Alabama this Wednesday, so we'll see how that goes. But we stick with women. We preview. You have 2 games at home this weekend. It's going to be Georgia State on Friday and Mississippi Valley State on Sunday, which I know you're going to call one or both of them, maybe. Yeah, there you go. So you'll be up there. So what I want to kind of get at is, you talked about some weaknesses in this past game they just played, but what are some of the strengths they could kind of bring out and prevail over with these 2 games coming up this weekend?
Continue to play tough, fast-paced defense. Love the way we played defense in that one. Seemed like there was a ton of pressure. There were a couple slip-ups where Davidson slipped behind Mississippi State defenders, but I think overall they played really tough. Was proud of how they played. Continue to swing the rock around, get some action from everybody. I enjoyed how when we weren't turning the ball over, it looked pretty good offensively. I think we got a lot of players to look forward to this season. I mentioned all those other ones, but Chandler Prater, somebody that's a returner on this team that State fans should be excited about. So continue to move the ball around, see what you have. Right, it's early in the season, and continue to ramp up the pressure on defense because I love the way we play defensively.
Yeah, well, the weekend doesn't end there for basketball. For the women, you look at the men. You're playing in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, against the number 16th ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Now, this is a team that finished 25-10 last season, but they lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament to Ole Miss, who you swept last year. So you look at this game, you say, hey, we beat Ole Miss twice. Iowa State couldn't even beat them once. How do you sweep Iowa State this weekend?
Yeah, it's definitely a different team, and I'll talk about Iowa State too, and talk about just mix in, I guess, North Alabama if anybody cares about that. By the time this will be released, we'll already have the game. But for both of these teams, and more so Iowa State, going to have to play really, really good offensively. Kind of struggled against Houston in that exhibition to score, although Houston has a great defense and they're known for that. But I thought one thing we did do well. Had some really good defensive play in that one. I thought we played really tough, really physical. Maybe cut down the fouls a little bit because we fouled a lot in that one, and maybe that was the refs kind of trying to get back into shape. Maybe they just were a little too ticky-tack. But we fouled a little bit too much, so clean that up. But I think overall I love the physicality that we had defensively against Houston. Look on offense for players, obviously like Josh Hubbard. Look for him to score. But guys outside, maybe like Jaden Epps and Sean Jones. Everybody excited about Jaden Epps and then love bringing Sean Jones back. Look for them in the backcourt to get some action offensively. You look for Achor and Quincy Ballard in the front court to get some action. And then some freshmen to be excited about that are going to get some playing time that played well against Houston, Jamarion Davis, Fleming, and King Grace. I think those are some guys you can be excited about. We'll see what we have this week. I think this is going to be a good basketball team, and I'm looking forward to what we have coming up against North Alabama and then Iowa State.
Oh, yeah, I am too. I'm so happy for basketball. I mean, I'm super happy of what football just did this past weekend, and we'll get to that. But when basketball rolls around, it's like a different animal. And like I said, every dog gets to eat. But is that what happened for football this past weekend? It was a nail-biter for Mississippi State in Fayetteville with a 38-35 win. State went up 5-4 in the series with Arkansas when played in Fayetteville, so that's a good thing to note.
I will say, too, they've won, I believe, 4 out of the last 5 in Fayetteville, so any Arkansas fan that thinks it's easy when Mississippi State comes to town, boy, they're wrong.
And you're right, because this snapped a 16-game SEC losing streak for Mississippi State. The last conference win, Ty, it was on October 21st, 2023 against none other than Arkansas. I know you already knew that. I really didn't have to give that out for you. But you watched the game. I watched the game. What'd you notice? First of all, I'll say you closed out the game. So one thing that we harped on last week, you were able to take care of business and get something done.
Yeah, you closed out the game finally. When you started the game, not great. I mean, you really didn't start the game good. Really struggled in the first half. Only had really one good drive, which was that touchdown drive. And even on that drive too, Connor, I mean, you were constantly in 3rd and long situations. You had to convert on 4th downs. So you were constantly stressed on that drive. You were outgained in the first quarter. Or in the first half, rather, 253 to 122, and Arkansas only scored 13 points. So, I thought it was a good defensive performance from State in the first half. Overall, I thought they played well, even though Arkansas scored 35 points. I still think they played well, especially down the stretch. But, really struggled in the first half offensively. Jeff Lebby came into the locker room and said, hey, that's not our brand of ball. That's not why we're here.
No, and against the 121st defense in the country,
exactly.
You really can't put up those numbers.
Exactly. You're not here to just, pitter-patter around, if that even makes sense. But, it felt like that's what we were doing in the first half.
Yeah.
We just looked really rough in the first half. Was able to clean that up. Some interesting thing, and we want to talk about this. He had, Blake Shapen came out of the game in the 3rd quarter, got hit. They called him off the field. They had the whole concussion thing. The people up in the booth looked down and said that he needs to come off the field. Kamario Taylor comes in, leads State to a touchdown drive. 2 of the three drives that Kamario was in on, Mississippi State scored. It was a touchdown pass to Anthony Evans and a rush from just outside the red zone, I believe, by Kamario Taylor. He was actually your leading rusher in the game.
Yeah,
so
and it won him conference co-freshman of the week, too.
Exactly, it did. Good to bring that up. So you had the whole Kamario and Shapen debacle, and Coach Lebby decides, against all odds of really just watching football and understanding momentum that Mississippi State had with Kamario in the game, Coach Lebby decides to bring his guy Blake Shapen back in, and guess what? Blake Shapen, proved that he's the guy, and he was up to the task.
Now, even with injury, though, I don't mean to cut you off or anything.
You're good.
Let's go back last week. Anybody interested? We go back to our parlay last week. Do you know what the over-under was for our parlay last week for passing yards for Blake Shapen? 238.3. Blake Shapen on the night, 16 for 28, 242 passing yards. Barely over on the parlay.
And, I'll say, and a lot of that comes from just he struggled in the first half.
Did.
And the offense as a whole struggled in the first half, as I mentioned. Couldn't run the ball for anything, really, for the whole game. But the first half, State struggled. But in the second half, State just played a lot better. There were multiple times late, Connor, where State could have given up. They could have just laid flat down and just wrote this one down as a loss. State trailed by 14 twice in the second half, and even trailed one of those 2 times was with 13:43 to play in the ball game. State trailed 35-21 and went on to score 17 unanswered and win the football game. Defense played wonderful down the stretch, just like I loved watching Nick Mitchell, and I've watched him all season. He's been so fun to watch this season. He played great. Isaac Smith played great. You had some great play from your defensive line in that one. Thought Bradley Lanier played a really good game. Kelly Jones obviously played a really good game. I thought they played well. I think Arkansas gashed us a little bit in the run game, in which we probably expected that. Arkansas is a great offense in general. State has struggled against the run this season. But I think State kind of tightened up, especially late when we had to have stops. We were able to get those. And I just want to mention him one more time, Blake Shapen. Huge success down the stretch. Made some great throws down the stretch. Had that great seam throw that he had to Anthony Evans. Had, I believe, another one over the middle of Anthony Evans. I think the throw down the sideline on the 4th and 4 play was actually not a bad throw, and it was an even better catch by Brennan Thompson to adjust and come back and get that one. Exactly.
Be able to do that.
Exactly. And then, the throw down there that Aiden Williams dropped at the end of the game, that was a great throw, really threaded the needle, which
Perfect
brought
window.
Yep.
Man.
It ended up bringing State to 4th down, and then the throw outside, which turned out to be the game winner. That's a tough throw in general. I mean, you got to throw that one all the way across the field.
And the risk to make
exactly.
that throw, too.
And you have to throw it on the line. You have everything, the game is on the line. And you have to throw it with speed and zip. He did that because, I mean, if you don't throw it like that, it could get picked, or Anthony Evans might not have such a great opportunity to make the play that he did. He might just get tackled straight up. Evans able to have some time to maneuver his feet, get around, and go score. Man, State just played great down the stretch of the ball game. Love what I saw down the stretch in an overall game where, Connor, you didn't play very well at all, but you found a way to make some plays at the end of the game to win it.
And usually when we look at these games, we're like, okay, well, we're relying on our defense to keep us in this game, but it's really the offense that stepped up. We really relied on them, and they showed up, did their job.
And I'd be remiss, too, if I didn't talk about it. It's been a hot topic. Arkansas had, I believe, 18 or 17 penalties
to talk about that.
in
Almost
the game.
200 yards.
200 yards.
193, I think.
The most in Arkansas history in a football game. I believe 193 yards is correct.
If it wasn't for that, there's no way we would have been put in this position.
And here's my thing. It's
Maybe
been such a hot topic, especially across the SEC and especially in the Arkansas fan base. Man, I only look at that, and maybe this is just me wearing maroon and white, but man, there's about 3 or 4 of those that really stood out as bad calls, and then there were some missed calls, but I think Arkansas is just an undisciplined football team.
You're not a disciplined football team, and that's because, you lost a head coach in the middle of the season.
Exactly.
You have a guy that came in.
And even Petrino got an unsportsmanlike penalty.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. But, I mean, he's been out the program for so long, it's not like these guys can go back to 2008 and be like, oh, man, this is our guy right here.
I mean, I think, they made a couple of bad calls, but overall, I think Arkansas is just an undisciplined football team, and it showed. I mean, like I said, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about that. That was definitely a factor in the football game. It was huge, gave State a lot of yards, and State capitalized on them when they were giving them. But, yeah, just a great job by State down the stretch when things weren't going their way for most of the football game, found a way to convert, as I mentioned, down 35-21 with 13:43 to play, and you score 17 unanswered and win your first SEC football game in 2 years.
And you rely on the offense. I'm glad you brought that up because I was this close to going into Georgia. But let's go into Georgia. After coming up with your first conference win in over 2 years, it's Bulldogs versus Bulldogs here in Starkville this weekend. Mississippi State is looking to extend their conference winning streak. Georgia, coming off a really, really close game, conference game, might I add, against Florida. You barely beat them 24-20 in Gainesville. Look at that.
In Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, you're right. Thank you.
Also, the rivalry name. Can we talk about the rivalry name real quick?
I was watching Jacksonville and wrote down Gainesville.
Can we talk about the rivalry name real quick?
Yeah, what's going on?
It might be the greatest one. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
I knew that.
What a wonderful name for a rivalry.
He just knows everything. But you look at that game, before we kind of get in what this means for Mississippi State, takeaways from the Florida game. Did you see something where you're like, man, Mississippi State's got to capitalize on that once they play Georgia this weekend in Starkville?
I think, Georgia all year has been a really good second-half team. That's just kind of been their thing. I mean, they had a great fourth quarter when we go look back at their Ole Miss win. Great fourth quarter against Ole Miss, really shut down Ole Miss's offense, and they were able to prevail and win in that one. They finished really well in that Florida game. It was a really, really tight third quarter. 17 points scored by both teams. It was very, very tight. It was Florida's best offensive quarter by far, but Georgia found a way to battle back and win. They outscored Florida 7-3 in the fourth quarter, outgained them by about 50 plus, around 50 or 60 yards. I think when you look at it, I believe the score was 7-3 at the half, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere around that. I think it was 3-3, something around there. It was a low-scoring game at the half.
Oh, yeah.
I think for State to capitalize, if you look at something to capitalize on, if you can just, obviously you want to play a complete football game, but if you can put it on them in the first half, I think that might be a little bit of a shock. Now, I know Kirby Smart is a great head coach, has a great staff around them. They're not down and out of the count at all. If you can put something on them in the first half, you might shock them a little bit.
And if you off guard.
Exactly. And if you can play a complete game, you might look at it, and you might win the football game.
And that's the story, right? Complete. But let's talk about these first half stats real quick before we get two out the way. Outscoring opponents, Mississippi State 86-26 in the first quarter. That's 144-87 in the first half. You got to figure out how you get that done against Georgia.
Well, I mean, and you look at the first half last week against a bad defense in Arkansas, and you only score 7 and gain 122 yards. Couldn't run the football at all. Most of all that came from your pass game. You gotta figure out a way. And what I think, as we kind of preview it now, what I think that State's going to have to do is be able to have that consistent pass game. I think Georgia has struggled in the pass game defensively this season. I mean, you look back at the Tennessee game, Georgia wins that one, but Aguilar had 371 yards and 4 touchdowns in that one. The picks were really what really separated, took some possessions away from Tennessee. Chambliss again in the win for Georgia against Ole Miss, 263 yards and a touchdown, and I think Ty Simpson probably had his best game of the year against Georgia. A 276-yard performance with 2 touchdowns in a game where it felt like Alabama really just dominated Georgia from start to finish, even though it was close. It never felt like it was, So I think State's going to have to have some consistency in the pass game. I think they can do that. I think it's a relatively weak secondary for Georgia. It's crazy to say that with how much success Georgia's had defensively under Kirby Smart since COVID. I think we can find a way to succeed in the pass game. I have all the confidence in the world in Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson to get open. They did it against Texas. They were open all day, and you had so much success here at home against Texas offensively. Texas is one of the best defenses in the country. So I think if you could get after them in the pass game, I think that's one thing that can open some things up for you, Connor.
Well, they each had 100 yards against Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it's like the 6-ish time they've done this season, if I'm not mistaken. Well, 2 receivers have done it for Mississippi State this season. But what this means for Mississippi State, let's not shut this out because this is really big. If State wins against Georgia, which would be, I don't want to say a miracle, but there's a lot of odds against Mississippi State on this game. But
the spread is close.
The spread is closer than what I would imagine.
But it's a top 5 team.
It is a top 5 team, and we'll get to that. But if they win on against Georgia, it's going to be their first win over Georgia since 2010, which was also in Starkville that year. State's second win versus an AP top 15 team this season, and they haven't done that since the 2021 season. State's first AP top 5 win since 2014. You know who that was against.
That was against the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, it was. Number 2 ranked Auburn, also in Starkville. And the biggest one of them all, which I think if this happens and you beat Georgia to get this mark, you'll become bowl eligible, postseason bound for the first time since the 2022 season. And you know who we played for that year as well.
Yeah, that was Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and won that one 19-10, I believe, was the final.
I mean,
score.
I wasn't going to ask you to pull the score.
Well, hey, I'll pull it for the viewers here.
If you know it. But I want to go back to offense. One of the things we talked about and discussed before.
Real quick, I want to hit on that before we go to offense. To become bowl eligible, after what has transpired in this program over the past couple of years, ever since the passing of Mike Leach.
Exactly.
From where you were after Arnett's season, how depleted you were, and then last season you go 2-10. And I don't want to really talk about the 2-10 that much anymore because we're way past that.
Exactly.
But to look at it from long scale, from where you've come from, and to think that this football team might be bowl eligible, and they still could go to a bowl if there's not enough 6-6 teams. 5-7 teams go to bowls. So I mean, a 2016 Mississippi State went to a bowl at 5-7. To think that this team and this program can find themselves in a bowl game at the end of the season after what's all transpired is absolutely wonderful. Credit to Jeff Lebby, his decisions, to keep this staff together, keep Coleman Hutzler. It paid off.
Oh, he improved so much.
Exactly, and it's because he's got athletes now. That's the reason why.
He's got a roster, exactly.
But my thing is, to have this football team and an opportunity with a chance to go to a bowl game from all that's transpired is absolutely incredible. It's a credit to Jeff Lebby, a credit to Zach Selman, credit to everybody invested in this football program. And I just want to mention that.
But there's one word that has transpired the most this season as opposed to Arnett's year? You didn't have it that much in Arnett's year. You really didn't have it last year because you really didn't have your guys there. Levy didn't have it, and that's trust. People trust each other. The staff trusts the players. The players trust the staff.
There's a lot of coherence and a lot of belief inside that.
The trust is reciprocated. There's a lot of nice, I would say winning culture, and you just got to love it. But we keep going. We look at offense. We talked about earlier. You figure out how to make it third and manageable. You're 42% on third down this season, which isn't super great nationally. You're not ranked super great for that percentage, but you got to figure out how to make it third and manageable. How do you do that against Georgia?
Have great play calls on first down. I think you have to have your best play calls on first down. To be able to make it third and manageable will be big because Georgia, one of the best in the country in third down defense, and they're even better in the red zone, but that's a separate point. But third down defense, they are really, really good. But you have to have good play calls on first down, be able to throw the ball consistently, and mix it up in the run game. And I don't think you're going to be able to be successful if you run right at this defense all the time like you tried to do against Texas. Mix some things up, run the ball outside a little bit, and I think you might have an advantage to be able to have some third down and third and manageable situations against this defense. Like I mentioned, 21st in the country in total defense. It's no stranger to Mississippi State. They faced good defenses all season. We'll see how they fare against them. You want to talk about Georgia's offense just a little bit?
Yeah, but I want to talk about our defense most.
Yeah,
with kind of in connection with that. You look at Georgia's offense. My thing for this game is you got to keep Georgia off the field. Whatever you do, this is how Gunnar Stockton gets hot, and you cannot allow Gunnar Stockton to get hot because when he's on, he's on. There's no stopping him. You say you think we have one of the best secondary players, the best cornerback in the country. That may be true, but maybe for Gunnar Stockton, he can get around that. Georgia, 9th in the country in time of possession. You're second in the conference. That's 33 minutes and 2 seconds average per game. That's a lot of time, Ty.
Yeah, it speaks to why they're so good on third down, too. They convert on third down. One of the best in the country in converting on third downs. Yeah, got to keep them off the field. You do that by having great offensive success. You mentioned Stockton. That's how he gets in a rhythm, is just consistently hitting on throws. You got to do something to disrupt that.
Create turnovers.
Yeah, create turnovers.
I think if you're
Coleman Hutzler, you continue to mix things up and bring some pressure. I think you might see more pressure brought from Mississippi State with not so much of a. Stockton's not as mobile, obviously, as Taylon Green. He isn't as mobile as Arch Manning. I think State maybe tries to collapse the pocket. If you lose him, if you lose contain on him, I think it might be okay. I think you can make some plays outside on the perimeter and near the boundary. I think we can do that with our corners that may come down, coming off routes or coming off safeties. I think you have to mix up the pressure. I think Coleman Hutzler should bring some more pressure in this game. I think he has the freedom to do that. We'll see if State can convert against this Georgia offensive line. Hopefully we can get some pressure just with our defensive linemen in general. But be able to at least stifle the run game a little bit. And like you said, create some turnovers and create some negative plays, especially if Georgia can get it down into our end of the football field. I think State's done a good job all year of kind of locking down when the opponents get into our side of the field. See if we can do that in this one. But overall, I think it should be a close game. I think the spread is pretty much accurate where it is at like 7.5 right now. So I'm excited for this ball game this weekend.
Yeah, and you continue to lead the conference in interceptions with 11. If you can continue to do that, you might have a good showing against Georgia. You play a complete game. That's what me and Ty think you have to do to beat a good team like Georgia, the number 5 ranked team in the country. But that's going to do it for us. We're going to see what happens this Saturday in Starkville. We hope you go to the game. Please show your support. Jeff Levy and company had to buy a couple tickets because not a lot of students wanted to show up for this game, but you got to have trust. If the staff trusts the players trust the staff. We got to trust what Levy's building here in Starkville. And trust us for what we're building here on the Bulldog Student Sports Network. It's the 4th episode of the Bulldog Breakdown. Tyler, looking at me, you got anything to say before we leave?
I'm just glad we're continuing to do this. Very fun. Should be an exciting week of Mississippi State athletics. Go and show up and support your Mississippi State football team. They need all the help they can get against a fantastic Georgia football team. So excited for this weekend, excited for Mississippi State sports in general, and excited to continue to do this show with you, Connor.
I wanted to make sure Ty got a couple final words before we headed off air, but that's going to do it. I'm going to get the final word here for today. the 4th episode of the Bulldog Breakdown presented by the Bulldog Student Sports Network. We hope you join us next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens with sports. Like I said, join us next week. We thank you for watching, and we will see you then. Goodbye.